Hello friends, welcome to Wall Street Mojo's investment banking tutorial. Today's topic is a very important topic in ratio analysis, that is the asset turnover ratios. So as you can see in this graph here, this is the Walmart's asset turnover ratio. This shows the history of past 15-20 years of data, and we note that asset turnover ratio Walmart has decreased over the past 20 years and it is currently standing at 2.392. So what does this mean for Walmart, and what is the implication of asset turnover ratios decreasing over a period of time? So in this tutorial is all about learning what this is and how do you calculate that and how do you interpret it. So let us first look at what is asset turnover ratio. Asset turnover ratio is nothing but sales divided by your average assets. So sales is the sales which the company does over a period of 1 year, and the average assets is the assets which are at the start of the year, the beginning of the year, and the end of the year, and the average of this two. So sales is what you get from the income statement, and income statement is for the particular year, and the average assets is what you get from the balance sheet. So please note that you have to calculate average assets. You will not get this as a direct number. The beginning and the ending divided by 2 is what you will get as an average asset. All right. So let's now go back to a Walmart example and calculate the asset turnover ratio of Walmart. So what we have here is Walmart has a total revenue of $482 billion. All right. So sales of Walmart is $482 billion. Okay. So I'm just writing this as 482. The asset size for the beginning of the year is 203 billion. Beginning 203, and the ending assets is 199.6. So what are the average assets? The average assets will become, this is equal to average of these two, the beginning and the ending. All right. So what will be the asset turnover ratio of Walmart? This will be sales divided by your average assets. So this comes out to be 2.39. So that's what we have in terms of our result as well for Walmart. Now there are two situations which can happen when we calculate these ratios. First one is when we calculate this ratio, asset turnover ratio can be less than 1, or asset turnover ratio can turn out to be greater than 1. So what are the implications or the interpretations of such a situation? When asset turnover ratio is less than 1, what it means is that sales is less than your average assets, right? So this means that you're not being able to produce sales in proportion of your assets. So say for example, if this is 0.5, what will this mean is for every $1 of assets, you are able to generate only $0.5 of sales. Okay. So this may or may not be a good situation to be in, because generally what happens is if it is less than 1, we should also look at its industry peers. So if the industry is such that the sales divided by, the average asset, that is the asset turnover ratio of the industry, is generally low, we can't say that if it is less than 1, it is not good. All right. So please do consider and compare this with the industry average. All right. Second situation again here is that asset turnover ratio is greater than 1. So what this means is sales is greater than average assets. So if the sales is greater than average assets, what we saw in the case of Walmart, it was 2.39. So what this means is every $1 of assets of Walmart, they're generating $2.39 of sales. So that's incredible. But again, is this good or bad? You can't tell until unless you compare this again with your industry average. So industry average is a very critical thing, and you must remember that whether it is greater than 1 or less than 1, it doesn't by default means that it's a good situation to be in. You must compare that with the industry average. All right. So let us now look at asset turnover ratio example and see if there are two companies which operate in the same sector. Can we identify which one of the two is actually a better one from the asset turnover ratio point of view? Now, in this example, we are provided with the gross sales and the sales discount, okay, for company A as well as company B. We also have assets at the beginning of the year as well as at the end of the year. Okay, so first thing first, when we calculate the asset turnover ratio, remember this, the numerator was sales and the denominator was average assets, right? So please do note that when we talk about sales, it's always the net sales that we are talking about. Okay, so it's never the gross sales. So please don't make a mistake of taking gross sales. It's always the net sales. So if there are sales discounts or other kind of commissions that have to be deducted, please deduct those and then take the net sales amount. So let's calculate the net sales first for this company A and B. The net sales for company A will be 10,000 minus 500. That's 9,500, and for company B it is 8,000 minus 200. So this is your net sales, and that's what it should be used in the numerator. All right, let's calculate the average assets. The average assets is nothing but the average of the beginning and the ending. So this is 3,000 and 5,000 average, that will be 4,000, and likewise we calculate the average asset for company B. So this asset turnover ratio, this will be net sales divided by your average assets. Net sales divided by average assets. So obviously when we compare these two, we note that between A and B, company A is much better in terms of deriving sales from its assets. So company A is deriving as much as $2.375 per unit of asset. On the other hand, company B is deriving only 1.56. So between these two, obviously company A is much better. So I hope you understood this basic example. Now I would like to take another example, which is of Nestle's. All right, and you want to calculate the Nestle's average asset turnover, which I will do it very quickly. So I've pulled this data from Nestle's annual reports, and it provides the data from 2010 till 2015, and we also have the asset side. So so that we can calculate the average assets. So let me quickly calculate the average assets for this beginning and ending asset numbers which are provided here, so that we can calculate the asset turnover of Nestle and see what that number is. Okay, so the average asset for 2015 will be the ending and the beginning balance, right? So if we are just considering 2015, the start of the asset will be 134.96 and the ending will be 125.44. So this is the average asset, and I can copy and paste this formula until 2010. All right, so we have this average assets. The asset turnover ratio is very easy to calculate now. This is sales divided by average assets. So it comes out to be 0.709 for 2015, and it looks like Nestle has this average assets which is in the range of 0.7 or 0.8. So is this good? Is this bad? That's another question, so that we should now compare this with the industry, right? Industry average or some of the other peers within the industry, so that we can take a call as to is it good or bad, right? So now that we have looked at the calculation of Nestle's asset turnover ratio, let's look at how the trend has been over the past 15 years period. We note that Nestle's asset turnover ratio has been decreasing, and it's currently standing at 0.709. Okay, so Nestle is basically a part of the FMCG industry group, and as we discussed earlier, we can't comment whether this is good or bad unless we compare this with the industry. So I thought, why not compare this with Colgate and P&G, which are kind of not the true peers, but still they are in the FMCG sector. So on one side, in this graph, you can find the asset turnover ratio of Colgate and P&G. So P&G's asset turnover ratio is 0.509. However, Colgate's asset turnover ratio is 1.262. So where does Nestle lie? Nestle lies somewhere here at the level of 0.70. So if you look at the industry, it's slightly doing better than P&G, but it is way below Colgate.